as you take care of these people who are in the last few decades of their life, these people would give anything if they could go back and make different choices for their health. And so lifespan is the amount of time in your life, but health span is the amount of health you have within that time. And so my goal is to increase the health span of my patients at Next Level TRT.
Tell us, what does Next Level TRT do?
Yeah, so Next Level TRT is a longevity and performance medicine practice. And we see people, all around Texas. We actually have people that fly in from out of state, which is wild. It's pretty wild, thank God for social media, because otherwise there's no way to get it out there. We optimize people's health. And a lot of the times people see Next Level TRT and they assume it's just a TRT clinic. And that's really far from the truth. We started out as wanting to, offer one thing with the plan of expanding our services over time. And I find that, if you don't want to be everything for everybody,
you can't be. You can't be everything for everybody.
Right. And so we did start out with just hormone optimization. And with my background, I've been in healthcare since 2008, and I graduated as a nurse. I did all ICU and ER for, 12 years. And at some point, I was ready to take the step to go back to school. I was, for some time, I was the vice president of the National Nursing Organization, the American Association for Men in Nursing. And so we did some really great things. I connected with so many people in nursing that are doing great things, even at the at the state level, at the federal level. There's a lot of very advanced, I don't know, like a lot of nurses who have been doing it for a long time at very high levels were members of our organization. And I was really able to meet a lot of people and make a lot of great connections and become really great friends with a lot of people who continue to inspire me. And they're like, well, what are you going to do next, man? You got to do, you can't just sit on your laurels, man. You have, there's things that we need to do.
You've got lots of potential. What's next for you? Yeah.
Well, yeah. And so I ended up going to nurse practitioner school, and I went to the University of Texas, and it was a great program. It was very challenging. I was working in the emergency room full time while I was doing that. And it was very challenging. And then I ended up graduating in 2019. So for the past 6 years, I've been working as a nurse practitioner, both in the ICU and then now at my practice, Next Level TRT.
So let's pivot. So after nursing school, you went and got your nurse practitioner, you became a nurse practitioner. And so that allows you to see patients generally under the supervision of a physician, but you're seeing your own patients, essentially. You're seeing folks yourself.
That's right.
How did you get from that to starting Next Level TRT?
So working in the ICU and in the emergency room for so long, you notice, people, and I think most people that I see in the ICU, and when I work in the ICU, I'm working by myself. At night, I'm the only critical care specialist in the whole hospital, except for the emergency room, and those physicians never leave the emergency room. So if there's a code around the hospital, I have to attend to that. If there's a code or somebody needs to be intubated, I'm the one that does that. Like if I need to put chest tubes in, I do that. Like there's no physicians at night. There's a physician group that I'll check in with, whenever we change shifts in the morning. But, we have a great deal of autonomy as nurse practitioners, but we do have physicians available to us when we need it, right? And so as you take care of these people who are in the last few decades of their life, these people would give anything if they could go back and make different choices for their health, right? And I have to say, I've had to talk to so many families, about, hey, your family member is not doing well, and we don't expect them to make it through the night, or maybe I'm having to code somebody and they don't make it. Just constantly being in a state of very stressful situations, right? High allostatic load, very stressful, chronically. and always just families wailing, all the sadness and everything. You know, I'm like, I can do something for people that will help get them off this path.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my idea for Next Level TRT came up. I wanted to create a situation where I could take people who are ready to make big changes in their health and help them to live a more healthy and a longer life. You know, they have lifespan and we have health span. And so lifespan is the amount of time in your life, but health span is the amount of health you have within that
Sure.
time. And so my goal is to increase the health span of my patients at Next Level TRT.
So how did you go about starting your next level? I mean, what was your path forward? I mean, you had this vision, I suppose, and I know you when you started, you had others involved with you along for the ride, but it seems like you were the driving force. How did you go about starting that process?
Yeah, so I had a really good friend, and he's still a really good friend. His name's Tim Dannemiller, and he's a physician. He's a naval. Actually, he was a flight surgeon, and we just had such a great relationship, and we always enjoyed working around each other. We worked well together, and so one day we were talking, and he's like, "Man, we should do something." You know, and I'm like, I got just the idea, you know, because I've been thinking about this for a
Funny
while.
you should say that.
Yeah. And so I said, this is my plan. This is what I think would be really awesome. And so I told him about the idea for Next Level TRT. Now, during the time, this is during COVID, right? Or whenever right around the second strain of COVID was happening. And so we ended up going forward with the idea, and he acts as my medical director, you know, and I'd like to circle back to that in a little bit, but we had to use just telemed, you know, for the longest time, which was great because, you know, as a nurse practitioner, I don't find it very easy to obtain like funding as easy as physicians possibly can. You know, there's all kinds of loans specifically for physicians, you know, whenever they want to start out the practice. Nurse practitioners don't have nothing like that. And so it was a great way to start because, you know, I mean, most people were seeing, you know, it wasn't very uncommon to have a telemedicine visit at the time because nobody was leaving and nobody's going to to their clinics.
So were you doing primary care via telehealth, or was it TRT, testosterone replacement therapy? Was it that and other things? It was all the above?
Yeah, that's right. It was hormone replacement therapy and weight loss. And so we were doing that. And so, and these appointments were very sparse because, you know, coming out, you know, starting a practice, it's like moving a train from a stop position. It takes a lot of effort to get that train moving, you know, and so I would have so much time to spend on the phone with these patients because it's not like I'm lining patients up every day. Right. And during the time I'm working still full time in the ICU.
So this is kind of your side hustle, so to speak, trying to get this new business up and running.
Yeah. And it worked out well because it started the way it started. Once we had enough patients where the practice could sustain itself, and my youngest son started kindergarten, I thought, well, let's open up a local space, you know? And so I started looking around, and there just happened to be a clinic space opening up. It was a chiropractor who was no longer there, that she moved to another office. So it was already, you know, it had everything that we needed. It was, you know,
sounds
it was
like
not
a little divine intervention for you.
I feel like it was.
When opening up the brick and mortar location, did you quit your daytime job? Were you all in, or were you still balancing both?
Still balancing both. I was working 1 week on, 1 week off in the ICU. But what we had done, we had structured it in a way where the clinic opens at 10 a.m. It closes at 2:30, and it's closed from 2:30 to 4:30, and then it opens again from 4:30 to 6. And we did that so that we and our future employees could, you know, in the morning they could drop their kids off at school. You know, they don't have to rush through traffic to get to work, and then on their 2:30 to 4:30 break, they can go pick up their kids, or, you know, just have that time to do whatever they need to do. And so, and fortunately, it was still not crazy busy during this time, but I would get off from the hospital, I would drive to the clinic, and I had set up like a call room in the back, you know, where there's a bed, and I would sleep until my first appointment. And then I would just see appointments, you know, until I had another space at 2:30 to 4:30. I'd try to get some more sleep. And then, I'd see more patients. And then at 6 o'clock, I'd have to get ready to go back to the hospital. And so I did
Wow.
that for like 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
It was wild,
So sleep
man.
deprived, but
Yeah.
you're starting a new business and your vision. The practice of medicine oftentimes bears little resemblance to running a business. So what were some of those initial challenges of starting a new business besides the scheduling and lack of sleep? What were some of the challenges that you faced getting started?
So the biggest challenge that when I look back now, if I could change it, I would say I would get better counsel. Man, where were you at, man? I wish I would have known.
I was
your
around.
phone.
I was around. I promise you, I wasn't working
Man,
all
I wish I
night
would've.
and day. But sometimes it felt like it. But I'm here.
I needed you, man. Golly, I needed you. So I feel like one of the mistakes that we made is we sought counsel from inadequate sources, right? So there are some things that I would go back and do different. That would definitely be it. I would hire you in a heartbeat, man. Golly, it would have saved us so much trouble because there's a lot of things that we were told that was inaccurate. Also by a lawyer. But not a medical lawyer, right? And so it just really wasn't their expertise. But, we set up an LLC. You're not supposed to set up an LLC, and again, Tim was ill-advised. And he's like, just open up an LLC and you guys can be, partners on the LLC. Well, that's incorrect, And so fortunately, you were able to help us restructure that, and, another thing that's very problematic, especially in the medical space, is marketing. Marketing is so tough because, if you want to market, and where's everybody at? They're on social media. So you got to meet people where they're at. And through social media, if you don't have a LegitScript certification, it's very difficult to market a medical practice online because they require very rigorous vetting. And because if they didn't do it that way, anybody could say we're a medical practice, and you could pull the wool over, anybody's eyes.
Yeah. So for those who are not familiar with LegitScript, it's a certification, if you will. It's a process and a certification you go through with a third party entity that verifies you are who you say you are. You have the authority to write the prescriptions you say you can write, and it creates a process through which you can sell prescriptions or prescription drugs through certain social media platforms. And they have a platform that will sell, and you can ship the prescriptions directly to patients and those kinds of things.
Yeah. And so in some states, I obviously, we cannot dispense medications from the practice in the state of Texas. We can administer, we cannot dispense. Right. And even through LegitScript, there was, as we're going through the certification, there was a lot of questions they had because it was different than any other model that they've seen. And, they expected us to have a partner pharmacy or our own pharmacy, which was wild to think, but what we do is we prescribe after an initial consultation. We, based on our treatment plan that we've established, we prescribe medications to a pharmacy, preferably the pharmacy that's, most convenient for the patient. And so that was something weird. They didn't understand that. They expected us to be shipping our own medications out, to each, So
like any other physician practice in Texas, the doctor or the nurse practitioner writes a prescription. The patient takes it to their pharmacy, or you might send it electronically to their pharmacy, but they go and pick it up from the pharmacy and pay for it, or insurance, present insurance at the pharmacy, as opposed to the doctor's office shipping medication around the country or shipping it directly to the patient. So that's a different model than some states have. As you continue to scale and grow, what has been the biggest challenge?
So I think it goes back to the money aspect, because you can bring in, if you market correctly, you can bring in 100 new patients, in 1 month, but you could also have 100 bad reviews, and the way that we've structured our practice is we spend a whole lot of time with our patients. I might see, maybe at the most 12 patients a day, but I like to spend about 30 to 45 minutes with every patient that comes in. And so it takes time to build a practice that is going to allow you to scale if you're using your own capital. Like we've bootstrapped this whole thing. The practice has basically paid for itself since the beginning. I haven't taken out any substantial loans except for recently, and we'll get into that. But I feel like one of the hardest things is scaling whenever you're trying to just, trying to see patient. This goes back to the seeing patients 5 to 7 minutes. I've never wanted it to be like that. I don't want it to be like that. I want to spend quality time with a patient every time so we can find out what's going on. And then we can come up with a treatment plan collaboratively that they're going to adhere to, and then it's going to work best for them. And so, if you're going to do that, something like that, it takes longer, but, and I have to say, like, I'm excited. I'm ready to scale this thing, but I mean,
you're very much a people person, and I can see you, working one-on-one with patients being the thing that gives you joy in life. The things we've talked about this. The things that I know don't give you joy are dealing with the financial aspects of business. That's not in your wheelhouse, and you didn't start this practice so you can deal with accountants and tax forms and, frankly, lawyers. So aside from getting the initial setup right with legal advice, get certifications in place. One of the things I think that help you and other businesses scale is finding good people that can take off some of those workloads, some of those aspects. Someone who has the financial experience or the knowledge or the desire to handle those kinds of things. Talk about how hard it is to find the right people to join you in this journey.
Yeah. So man, you nailed it. That was exactly right. Because, if you, obviously if you're considering your finances as you're building a practice, and you're not taking out loans and everything, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to afford maybe the high quality, help that you would like. And so
even just the sheer number of different specialties or that you would like to have. So you're making do with fewer rather than throwing money to hire as many people as possible. And so the takeaway is, because you can't do everything and don't have a desire to do everything, and so some things fall through the cracks. And if those things are left uncorrected, then they metastasize and they create even bigger problems.
Yeah, because it spirals. And now, like I said, I have not ever had to take out a loan until recently, and it's because of this situation that we.
But we're on demand. I mean, things are getting in place, and in the grand scheme of things, this was a valuable lesson that's not insurmountable, and this will be in your rearview mirror before too long, and you will have the appreciation for potential issues that can pop up as you move forward and continue to scale. Maybe in hindsight, you'll look back and say, that wasn't fun, but it level set my expectations and perspective and allowed me to better adapt to these scaling issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't prefer, but I don't not welcome adversity, because adversity is one of the greatest teachers. And when I know that I come against problems, I know other people who are doing the same thing will also come against problems. And most people don't have the resolve that I have. And so, I kind of find it like, well, I know I'm going to push through whatever it is, and then I'm going to learn from it, and it's going to help me be better as I scale.
So if you could tell your younger self right at the beginning of starting Next Level, hey, younger Michael, be sure to do these things or not do these things, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a lot of things. I actually have a list of things that I would do different, or I would advise people not to do. And so I think one of the biggest things is trying to undercut other, competing businesses or practices. I think for one, that's really, first of all, you're selling yourself short because you put in a lot of time and effort to get to where you are. And if everybody, I can't remember the statistic, but it's a very high statistic as far as how many businesses out there do not profit or profit well, in the grand scheme of business, and because everybody's always trying to undercut the next person to get that business. But what I've found over time, in just figuring it out, because you just have to test things out as you're building a business. And plus I've had some really good counsel for some really, really, great business leaders. But we implemented a tier approach. And so we have tiers, and we have a very high tier that anchors that price. So people see, wow, that's a high price, but there's all this value that we pour into each tier. And so instead of, at first we were doing a one price, and it was like $125 a month for service. But what happens is if you continue to lower your price, you have to see more and more people, and then you're not able to provide that really quality care that your patients deserve. And so we finally implemented a tiered approach to give people the kind of quality of care that they prefer to have. And so they get to choose, what tier they want whenever they get started, right? Undercutting competitors, that's a terrible idea because you're not going to grow your business if you're trying to lower your prices down as low as you possibly can.
If you choose to compete solely on price, then you are saying my service is a commodity and price is the only way I can compete.
That's very well said.
Okay. What else would you tell patients, or not patients, but those who are starting out in practice?
I would say get to marketing. You got to start marketing before you open in your doors, because the best kept secret in town is usually going to go broke. Right? You don't want you don't want to be the best kept secret. Okay, so you got to be marketing. Always be marketing your practice. I relied heavily at the beginning for word of mouth, and fortunately, I knew so many people, and that really helped. And I was very popular on social media. I have a very good following on social media.
You still are, and you are very forward thinking. You have, I see you stream video on LinkedIn and other platforms regularly. You are a natural at that.
I can't treat everybody in the United States, but I can provide you information that you can take with you, educate you on things that you can take with you to your provider, and hopefully live a better quality of life. And so that's my stance is always that. I just want to educate people, and I do obviously mention who I am and that I have a practice. But again, I only see people in Texas, so it's not like I can treat everybody. So start marketing. Make sure you're doing this. Get that LegitScript certification as fast as possible, because that's a gatekeeper, and it'll make it very difficult to market. Also, tracking. My gosh, make sure that you have key performance indicators that you are monitoring. If you're just kind of just like going through the motions and not keeping track of those things, you're not going to grow.
Like, give me an example of a KPI that you track.
Okay, churn is one, right? So we have a membership-based model. It's a cash pay practice, right? So it's a membership-based model. And so churn is, imagine you have people like a bucket. You're pouring water into a bucket, but your bucket has a hole in it. And so you're leaking water out of there. Well, you got to keep track of like how many people are you losing each month or each quarter, or each year, and then find out what's causing this hole, And then that specific thing, you can start like trying to figure out based on this churn, what reason did they leave? Why did they leave? And then you can
suppose it's easier to keep a patient than it is to get a new patient.
Yeah. You only need, I heard one guy, there's a guy named Jim Rohn. I don't know if you know who Jim Rohn is, but he was a really great business philosopher. And he's like, you just need one person. Right. And if you just take really good care of that one person, they'll tell everybody, And so, and I think Zig used to say, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything that you want. Right. That kind of thing.
Yep.
And so I kind of live like that. I want to take care of all my patients, and we have very low churn. My gosh. We have people that have been with us since the beginning. And so it's been really great and I feel like that goes back to just when you walk into our place, like all our employees, all our staff, they are all high energy. They're in great moods, and we try to make sure of that, right? They have great hours. We actually have a massage therapist that comes and massages our staff once a month. We just take good care of our staff, right? We
Sure.
want them to feel valued and respected.
That's another tip. Take good care of your staff.
Got to do that, man. You got to do that because they're the face. When people walk in, I can be in my office and I hear my staff in the background. When somebody walks in, they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And they're just like, it makes me smile because everybody is just so pleased when they walk in because they feel important, and they make those patients feel important and valued. And so it really matters who you hire. And I tell you what we did, and we didn't do it with our first employee, which I wish we would have. That didn't work out. But we started doing working interviews. So we would do an interview, and whenever we found the right candidate, we would invite them to a working interview where they would come in, they would sign HIPAA, and a non-disclosure, and we would let them work for 6 hours. And then we would be able to kind of just see how they work, and how they act and how they respond to customer or patients and how they answer the phone and stuff like that. Yeah, I wish we would have implemented that because that was a game changer. We were really able to find some really great people. And I had one of them the other day said, I've been here a year. It's about this time that I'm looking for other job, but I'm not going nowhere, so that's pretty awesome.
So what's next for Next Level? I mean, I guess in the short term or in the next few years, where do you expect to be? And then what's your ultimate plan for Next Level?
I want to change the world. That's what I want to do.
Well, at least you've got a modest goal.
Yeah. I like to keep it modest,
You want a legacy. You want to build the legacy.
I do. And so we have another clinic that's supposed to be opening in December, and it's going to be in Arlington. And so I don't know if you and I have discussed that yet. So we definitely need to talk about
You've hinted at it. Yeah, that's for our next get together.
Yes, we got to do that. And our plan is to expand outside of Texas. And so I feel like I had some pretty good counsel from someone who works as a fractional CFO. And this person was not hireable at the time. But he did give me some great counsel. He said, you need to open at least 4 clinics that are yours. So that with each clinic that you open, you'll be able to refine those processes that probably need to be refined before you start opening this up like a franchise model. And so that's the plan. I hope to just open a few more clinics. And then with each successive clinic, then we're getting one step closer to really just opening up as a franchise. In which case, it's still, we're still trying to decide, should we do franchise or should we just keep all the clinics, and just staff people from different states. And
I've got clients that are opening clinics or that have opened clinics around Texas and nationally. They've got 60 clinics around the nation. They're not a franchise model. They partner with folks at each location. That's a viable model. Franchising is a viable model as well. There are different ways to skin that cat. So when you get ready to do that, we'll talk, and then maybe in a few years we can have a second version of this interview, and you can catch us up about all the great things that have happened with Next Level.
I look forward to that. It's really exciting, because the time is going to pass, right? 5 years is going to go by, 10 years is going to go by. There's stress with everything. I can work for somebody and be stressed, or I can build my own practice and be stressed. At least with this, I'm leaving a legacy. I'm able to do something that's going to carry long after I'm gone. I'm hoping that's what I would like to happen. And so I love this, and I love the results I'm seeing. We have only 5-star reviews, and we have lots of them. And I'm only saying that to say this. It makes me feel like what I'm doing is the right thing, because I really believe that we're changing lives, and
you are making a difference.
Making a difference.
Michael, I thank you. Thank you for being one of the first folks that allow me to interview you. I appreciate it. I really enjoy talking with you, and I enjoy your positivity. It's kind of contagious. So I've enjoyed my time with you, and I'm looking forward to many more years.
I like that, man. And I always love getting to have some time with you. And it's an honor to be on the podcast. My gosh. Whenever you ask me, if I'd be up for it, man, I didn't have to hesitate.
Well, this is something new, just like this is like a startup, like you were a while ago. So there's going to be growing pains for me as well with this, but
it's fun, man. It's fun. My gosh, it's so fun. You'll get to meet and talk with so many good people, and so many people are going to benefit from this. And this is kind of like another legacy, because things on social media live forever.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be out there forever and ever, and so I'm excited for you.
Well, you'll get to look back on it a few years from now and say, boy, look how far we've come since then.
Yeah. That'd be
all
cool.
Right. Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You take care, man. Thanks so much.